Bible Answers with Dr. Al Garza.
All right, welcome back to Bible Answers. I'm going to go ahead and deal with a question that I've gotten a number of times regarding how I view and how I would read John 1:1 from the Greek and even from the Hebrew. Now, I'm going to be looking at John 1:1 from the Greek and from the Hebrew text that was discovered in Hebrew University's digital archives, where they had, photographed a Gospel of John, at least a page or so. It was more of a leaflet that was found, and it was discovered at the Vatican junk box, where they had pulled it out and they had archived. It was discovered at Hebrew University. So I want to kind of give you both perspectives to see how the Greek and how even the Hebrew Gospel of John that was discovered, the first leaflet of the first chapter, how they kind of compare to each other. And again, this is even answering how Jehovah's Witnesses mistranslate and obviously don't know enough of the Greek to translate it correctly. And so we're going to look at this from the Greek grammar and how they view it. Because two things about this is that I've noticed is that in their in the Greek interlinear, one side says it correctly in the Greek, and the other English they then go against the Greek, which is kind of interesting. So we're going to answer that question pretty briefly. I'm going to try and do this in a way that's, if you don't know much Greek or you know very little Greek, I'm going to try and make it as easy as possible to understand in layman's terms. I don't want to get too technical, but you can look this stuff up if you have a basic Greek grammar book, or you can kind of follow along and watch this again. But I'm going to try and make it very simple without going too in depth in the Greek grammar or even in the Hebrew text, which I'll read. So let's take a look at this. I want to show one thing. The Jehovah's Witnesses and their interlinear translation, I have two copies here. I have an older version here, as you can see. It's in a purple book. And I have their more modern interlinear right here. Now, both of them read the same. If I read the Greek interlinear from their text here, and I read it the way it reads and underline their Greek and both sides, you'll see that they translate it correctly, word for word in the Greek in the interlinear part. It says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was toward the God, and God was the Word. Now, of course, this is exactly how it reads in the Greek, and in the English, on their English side of the translation, they have in the beginning the Word was, and the Word was with God, and the Word was a God. So they're trying to have their cake and eat it too, so to speak, where on the Greek interlinear side they translate it correctly, while on the other side they translate more English version with an a God, whereas the Greek interlinear, when they go word for word, they don't add a God there. So if you look at the Greek, ein arche, hein ha logos, kai ha logos, hein pros ton theon, kai logos, hein ha logos. So you look at that from the Greek, and you realize, if you don't know Greek, of course, it's the way I read it. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was toward God, or face to face with God, and God was the Word. Now, it's interesting because, again, they want to have both sides. They want to have it correctly rendered in the Greek as well as in the English. So what I'm going to do is I'm kind of going to give you a really brief breakdown of this. I don't want to go too deep, but I'm going to kind of break this down in the Greek, which you'll see right here that I have, has the John 1:1, and of course I highlighted the similarities of halagos and ton theon. And of course, theos, hein halagos at the bottom. And the yellow shows that the OS's are all the same with the halagos, the O and the OS. I'm breaking down the English. And of course, the ton theon, the ON. And the ON agrees with both the ton and the theos, okay? So when we look at that, we notice a couple things here. On that second part, and the word, kai halagos, hein pros ton theon, that I just showed you, of course, in the basic Greek, you have the basic subject, the subject noun, which again is the halagos, and that agrees with the O and the OS at the end with ha and logos. And then, of course, you have the object noun, the direct object, which is normally called in Greek the accusative noun. So you have the accusative noun that comes after the verb, which is ton theon, and the on agrees with theon, on, which brings it to the object noun or the direct object, the accusative noun. So you have the subject noun, which is the nominative, then the verb, and then the accusative noun to show that they're not the same when you read them. So this is going to be key because in the last part, the third line, which I showed you, which reads kai theos hen halagos. The theos now is not theon with the on. It's actually os, like logos, os. So the endings are the same on the third line, the third clause, os and os for logos, theos, logos. Now, basic rule of grammar with Greek here, using the nominative predicate. When you have those two subject nouns together in one line, which kai theos, again that's a subject noun, and then hen halagos, the halagos be again the sub. So how do you read if you have two subject nouns there? Well, this is why the article is dropped, and when you read it, and it's not a god, but it's still understood as the god. Because in the rule of basic Greek grammar, and you can look at this up in grammar book, but if you look at how it reads, it's basically the nominative subject keeps the article which is halagos. Halagos is of course the nominative subject, and that keeps it in the Greek here. And when you have two subject nouns, one article will drop. The nominative predicate drops the article but retains it when spoken. So it's almost like it's there, but it's not there because halagos is demonstrating as what's going to precede it, and the word was, and we read it as the God, because again you have both subject nouns there, both in the nominative, and you have them. You won't have in Greek, just like in English, two thes. So halagos, which is consistent with the first clause, second clause, and third clause here. And they're both nominative with, again, theos, os at the end, not on. So again, the nominative subject, halagos, keeps the article while the nominative predicate drops it, but remains when it is spoken. So they would understand this when you're reading it as being, and the word was the God. The God. Even though it's not there in the Greek because of the grammatical structure, it's consistent. So again, that's how they would have heard it when they are reading it out loud, or when they're reading the Greek translation of the Gospel of John 1:1. So you got to be clear. This is why the Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't know enough Greek, and even on the Greek interlinear, one side is correct and the other side, their English, is wrong. Again, you cannot violate the Greek grammar here. Both here on the subject nouns and the nominative form have to be looked at as one keeping the article, halagos, the word, while the second one has to drop, but is still understood as being with an article, almost invisibly, so to speak, or becomes, and the word was the God, and so it's understood that way. That's why it's theos, not theon, as it was preceding ton theon. So it's making a clear distinction here. So God, within his nature of being the God, the word is part of that, and that's why he is God by nature, and that's how it should read. Now in the Hebrew, let's get the Greek out of the way here. In the Hebrew text, now this is a photograph of the actual manuscript that was found, the leaflet at the Hebrew University. It only contains, I think, verses 1 through 13 of John 1, and I know they have Hebrew Gospels that were discovered in Spain and so forth, but this is the one that was at Hebrew Universities, pulled out of of the Vatican junk box and digitized, and then it was discovered at Hebrew University. Now, how this reads is going to be basically the same, which is going to be interesting because it's in the agreement of what we just read. So it is how I'm going to read it first literally. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was next to Elohim in the Hebrew. Bereshit haya hadavar, v'hadavar haya hadzel ha Elohim. And the Word was next to Elohim. And then, of course, and Elohim, he was the Word. Veha Elohim hu haya hadavar. And Elohim, he was the Word. So even in here, The definite article is present in with God. Ve'ha Elohim hu chaya hadavar. Ve'ha Elohim, and the Word. He was the Word, and God. Sorry, Ve'ha Elohim, and the God. He was the Word, hadavar. So both articles are even present in the Hebrew here. And so you have this consistent, but it's actually a little bit, it's an agreement and kind of stronger, because in the Greek of face to face with God, here it's next to God, which if you read in the book of Acts and in Ephesians and other places, is the Son of Man, or Jesus, who is at the right hand of the Father, standing at the right hand of the Father. He's next to the Father. He's next to God. So the linguistic part is consistent with the rest of Acts and Paul's letters of God, of Yeshua, Jesus, as the Son of Man standing or even sitting next to at the right hand of the Father, sitting at the right hand of the Father, standing next to at the right hand of the Father. So, and Elohim, he was the Word. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was next to Elohim, and Elohim, the Elohim, he was the Word. And that's how it reads in the Hebrew. So it's Bereshit Hayah Davar Veha Davar Hayah Hazel Ha Elohim Veha Elohim Hu Hayah Davar. And again, this goes back to agreeing and emphasizing the Greek, where again, as you have as you had here in the Greek, you have both of them, of course, they're both nominative nouns. With the article here, the article is present in the Hebrew text. Veha Elohim, and the God, Hu Hayah Davar. He was the Word. So it's an agreement, both the Hebrew and in, of course, the Greek. They both have a little bit of differences of one being with and next to, but yet the definite articles are both present in the Hebrew text as well as understood in the Greek grammar of how the nominative predicate article drops and so forth. But it's still understood as being there, because again, you got two subject nouns. So this is why Jehovah's Witnesses are wrong. This is how you need to understand John 1:1. It's very direct to the point. In the beginning, like in Genesis 1:1, Bereshit. It follows that same as we saw in the Hebrew, Bereshit, and even in the Greek. It follows perfectly. Now, even in one of the Aramaic Targums, one of the Aramaic translations, the Targum, the Neophiti one, again, this was also I think discovered at the Vatican at one point. It has in the beginning, the word of the Lord, He created. So it has the Memra, the word He created. So it actually has that in Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, the word of the Lord, He created. Again, the Aramaic, of course, is in this. People have tried to say, well, it comes from the Vatican. So, but either way, it's still an Aramaic translation, which agrees with both. So you've got to look at this carefully, not only from the English but from the Greek, and even from the Hebrew, and also looking at the Aramaic of Genesis 1:1 in certain Aramaic texts, and kind of see how this fits, because this is a theme throughout the Gospel of John. And I wish we had more of the chapters of John, which they do have one. They do have the full Gospel in Spain. They're translating, but the one at the Vatican, I'd love to see more of those that full text there. Unfortunately, they only had the leaflet. So I hope this helps of John 1:1 and how the Jehovah's Witnesses got it wrong. And I hope this gets you made a little easier for you to understand it from the Greek. You can look it up, and also from the Hebrew text of the Gospel of John, how they connect perfectly. So again, thank you for watching Bible Answers. If you have any questions, leave them here. Please click like and subscribe, share this. And again, we'll see you in the future with more Bible Answers. Thank you, and God bless.
Bible Answers with Dr. Al Garza.